Good Boy is one of those horror movies where very little actually happens, yet I find my skin crawling the entire experience. Don't get me wrong, there is a plot, however, it's not so much about the individual events in the plot as much as about the atmosphere in between. Good Boy is a Norwegian horror film about a young, wealthy man named Christian and his dog that's not a dog, Frank. You see, Frank is a man in a dog costume, and he lives as a dog full time. The plot starts to kick off when Christian goes on a date with a woman named Sigrid. She's a bit flaky, a little bit loosey-goosey, spacey, and doesn't seem all that interested or concerned about things like punctuality or her grades at school or anything like that. Christian is clearly very bothered by this. I mean, Sigrid is very late to their very first date. But he's careful not to be too outwardly upset about this and instead turns on the charm, getting her to open up to him. Even jokingly, she says that she craves structure. She asks him, does he live alone? And he says he has a dog. And after the date goes very well, they go back to his place and they are intimate. The next morning is when she gets to be introduced to Frank. She's rightfully very freaked out and decides to leave then and there, getting a ride home from Christian, which is very uncomfortable, and he seems to know that she's not likely to call him again. As it happens, Sigrid doesn't live alone herself. She has a friend and roommate who is just the worst kind of friend. Sigrid explains the entire situation with Frank and does say that the date itself was good, it's just that freaked her out, and she's not likely to reach back to him. Her friend, upon realizing who she went on a date with, explains that this Christian is the son and heir of a multi-millionaire. She chastises Sigrid for being so judgy and basically pressures her to give him another chance, going so far as to literally slap her. And after a little time, she acquiesces and decides to give him another chance, going on another date and even asking about Frank. And Christian explains that this is all for Frank's benefit. It's not something that he's super into, but that Frank has been through a lot and really desires to live all the time as a dog, and he helps his friend out. And after several more dates and more time around Christian and Frank, she starts to feel like it's not exactly normal. She's still clearly weirded out by it, but she's no longer as shocked by it, and it starts to feel less and less weird as time goes on. At this point, Christian invites her to go to his family's secluded cabin with him and Frank for a week, and not only does she agree to that, but once there, he even convinces her to give him her phone and make it a no phones week. She still seems relatively comfortable with the situation, but everything flips on its head when, in a moment where Christian is out of the room, Frank drops the charade of acting like a dog to say that this man is a psycho and that they need to escape. The rest of the film is very tense as Sigrid clearly tries not to be fearful, or openly so, in front of Christian to set off his alarms while trying to plot a way to escape this secluded area. The film seems to be about these extremely toxic power dynamics, but it's not always clear what exactly it's trying to say. Yes, Christian is clearly controlling and domineering, and yes, the fact is that Sigrid and Frank both do acquiesce to what he wants, but under a lot of duress. There seems to be some sort of strange underlying message about people like Sigrid who are a little flaky, a little loosey-goosey, and, there may be attraction to these kinds of people, and I don't even mean just from a purely romantic sense. Her roommate is clearly also very domineering and controlling. And even though Frank is the one who immediately tries to clue her in that they're in danger and tries to help plot a way for them to escape, he's also the one who basically rats them both out to Christian first. From the perspective of how well the film is shot and the tension in the scenes and the way that they're able to build that tension throughout the film, and even the way it made me very uncomfortable, the movie is a smashing success. But from the perspective of what the underlying message is, I'm not 100% sure, to be perfectly honest, and the ending itself, I didn't care for, especially the last shot of the film, which just made me all the more uncomfortable. Horror is not a genre that is known for happy endings, and this is no exception, but this is a little bit different from films like, say, The Strangers, where, the protagonists both lose their lives, but there's a moment that is satisfying between them, taking comfort in each other. There is no form of victory in this movie for anybody but, unfortunately, Christian. And Christian doesn't appear to be in any danger of facing consequences for his atrocious behavior. We got more movies to watch for 31 Days of Horror. If you want to watch some of the films with me in these last days of October, the list of films I'm watching is in my pinned video. Until then, please let the dogs out.